Good morning, everybody. Yesterday's quiz showed that a lot of you are having trouble with the distributive property problems that were on the homework. This is page 01, M8, pre-algebra, and that was page number 5. These are they're a little bit more complicated than what you probably ran across in your basic pre-algebra class. I mean, a normal distributive property problem might be something like 3 times x plus 4. And this is pretty easy in terms of I'm just going to multiply the 3 times the x, multiply the 3 times the 4, and add them together. And, you get something like that. That's a basic type of a problem, but obviously these problems went and extended it a little bit beyond that. So I'm going to go over a few of the kinds of problems and kinds of mistakes that I was seeing on yesterday's quiz that I'd like to hopefully get everybody on the same page understanding. So, for example, in that one little problem I had, let's just say I had something like that. Some of you, when there was a variable in the second term, were not catching this. So it's the same process, right? I've got 3 times x squared is 3x squared. And then I've got 3 times 2x is going to be 6x. Some of you were getting the 6 but not getting the x. And it became even a little bit more difficult for some of you if I did something like 3x times all of that. So then you have to catch the fact that I've got 3x times x times x. That's going to be my 3x cubed plus 3x times 2x. Well, that's going to be 3 times 2, 6, x times x, x squared. Okay, so these do take a little bit of slowing down, and maybe thinking a little bit more carefully about what you're doing, because you can't rush through these like you could maybe some of the more simple ones. Couple other examples. Some of you were missing the negative. So something like this problem here, right? With this, I am multiplying this whole negative 2x term. You will see when I was going around helping people, I was always circling the term with the negative. This is negative 2x times this one. In fact, I'm going to change this problem to another negative, because you guys were okay when there was a positive there, but when there's a negative there, that's where the trouble happens. So negative 2x times x squared is going to be negative 2x times x times x, x cubed. This is negative 2x times negative 3. That's going to be positive 6x, okay? And a number of you just carried over that negative. You did negative 2x times 3 without taking into account that negative sign. So those were a couple of the missed problems. And then the major issues happened when we had something like this. Okay, so some of you, because we actually have subtraction, but this is multiplication going on here. This is where some of you are still getting confused. And honestly, the easiest way to do this is simply think, well, I've got a 5, right? And then I'm subtracting, or I'm really adding a negative is what we're going to look at this as. So bring your 5 down so you don't forget about that. But and then circle the negative 2, okay? Then the term in front. That is what you're going to multiply by both of these terms, and you're going to either add or subtract depending on the sign, right? So I've got negative 2 times a. Well, that means I'm going to be adding a negative 2a, or I could just subtract 2a, okay? That's this part. Then I've got the negative 2 times negative 6, which is positive 12, okay? And again, a lot of you got the negative 12 in there. And then at this point, some of you left your answers like this, but now I have like terms, 5 and 12 can be combined. So your final answer would be negative 2a plus 17, or it was perfectly acceptable to say 17 minus 2a. A lot of you missed this problem yesterday, okay? I'll take one that might be just a little bit more complicated here. This is one that I didn't put on the quiz, but I'm going to go over it because it has a lot of those same aspects to it. Okay, so again, really what I have here is this is all, the only multiplication that's happening is in the distribution, but everything else, remember the definition of subtraction is adding the opposite, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and again circle the sign, circle the term including its sign, and that I'm going to do this side. So I've got negative 2a, negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12, okay? And then what I have is plus, I can write it this way. This is like plus negative 4 times all this, okay? Adding the opposite. So I'm going to do the negative 4a. I could say plus negative 4a, or I could just subtract 4a. It's your choice when we're writing it out, but it's really the same thing. I can either subtract the number or add the negative. It's a little bit easier in a string like this to not have the extra symbols, and so that's why I'm writing it this way. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12, okay? Now again, I've got like terms, and when I'm doing like, it's really easy to make mistakes on negatives. So when I'm doing my like terms, I'll circle the ones I'm adding. I'm adding my a's first. So I have a negative 2a and a negative 4a. That means I've got negative 6a's, right? Now I'm going to do my other two terms. I've got a positive 12 and a negative 12. Oh, that's 0. So this is my final answer, okay? There's just a couple of quick examples. If you need a little bit more help, I can give you a video lesson, but I think this ought to, I mean, hopefully this ought to clear everything up because everything else is kind of basic distribution. There's actually one more problem I'm going to do because there were enough of you that had some trouble with this that it's worth going over as well. Okay, so again, the negative in front of that means I'm multiplying by negative 1. And negative 1 just means change the sign. So I can just basically strip out the parentheses by changing the sign of everything in the parentheses. And then some of you, again, that's not a 5, that's an X, forgot that that's not the final answer because I have a negative X and I have a positive X. I can combine those two to get one positive X plus 5, and that was my final answer. Okay, so there's 3 or 4 examples of problems that some of you had trouble with. Please, if you did have trouble with these on the quiz, and a lot of you did, make sure you go back over this page of problems. This was 01 M8 pre-algebra, page 5, okay? And on the homework schedule, it said I was going to choose, 4 or 5 problems from this page, and the problems on the homework on the quiz were right from this homework page. But a lot of you had trouble with them. Make sure you go back. Yeah, I would even maybe, here's my solutions here as a homework study tool would be to do something like, cover up. If you had trouble with some of these, cover up your answer and rework the problem, okay? Make sure that, and then check your answer. Make sure that you can come up with that same answer. It is fine to rework the same problems over and over again. You will get really good at it. You actually will remember things more from working similar problems over and over than doing a whole new set of problems. But get this down because these skills are not going to go away. And I would do this before you do the graded homework assignment because that has some problems like this on here and you don't want to do those wrong. And I will see you on Wednesday. Thank you.